Okay guys, here's a quick video on wspm 2.4, which is solving equations with variables on both sides. I'm going to do the odd ones on this video, and by the way, you could skip the first two. I mean, it says describe each step. I mean, if you wanted to go through it, you could, I guess. Like, what's the first thing? You have k on the left side, k on the right side of the equal sign. So the first step would be to subtract 2k. And that's why you see this minus 2k over here. So it's not the usual way that we write things. So that's why we could just skip over those first two. Let's jump right into the odd ones right here. You want to solve for m. You want to get m by itself on one side of the equal sign. Step one of solving any equation is to see if you could simplify first. Is there any distributive property on the left side? No. Is there any combining like terms? No. There's no distributive property, no combining like terms. This means that this equation is simplified already, and we just need to worry about getting the m by itself on one side of the equal sign. Now the problem is you have m's on both sides of the equal sign. So let's get rid of the 3m by subtracting 3m, subtracting 3m. 2 take away 3 is a negative 1, and of course we're talking about m's, plus 12, bring down the equal sign, and bring down the minus 31. So there's our new red equation. It only has m on the left side. Let's get m by itself on the left side. So let's get rid of that positive 12 by subtracting 12. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. You will have your new equation that reads negative 1m equals negative 43. So for your final step here, you need to get rid of the multiplication of negative 1 in front of the m by doing the opposite, dividing by negative 1. What you do to one side, do to the other side. You will have your final answer, m equals positive 43. Let's move on to number 5. We have another simplified equation right here. There is no distributive property, there is no combining like terms. Again, step one is to always focus in on one side of the equal sign, the left side in this case. There is no distributive property, there is no combining like terms. Then you could focus in on the right side. There is no distributive property, there is no combining like terms. So that means that this is a simplified equation. So now we could worry about the goal of solving this equation, which is getting the a by itself on one side of the equal sign. Now the problem is you have a's on both sides of the equal sign. So let's get rid of one of these a's by doing the opposite of whatever we see there. We see a minus 2a. Let's get rid of that minus 2a by adding 2a. We do to one side, do to the other side. And what we have here is 7 plus 2, like 7 apples plus 2 apples. That's a total of 9 apples, right? Bring down the minus 3, bring down the equal, bring down the 3. So a is now clearly on the left side of this equal sign. Let's get the a by itself by getting rid of everything else. I'm going to get rid of the minus 3 by adding 3. What I do to one side, I do to the other side to maintain the balance of this equation. We have 9a equaling 6. What does 9a really mean? It means 9 times a equals 6. So let's get rid of that multiplication of 9 by dividing by 9. Our final answer is a equals 6/9. Now, the thing is, yeah, it's cool to have fractions, but if you could reduce the fraction, please reduce it. So 6 and 9 could both be reduced by 3, giving us a final answer, a equaling 2/3. Let's move on to number 7. I'll be honest with you guys, all these are ridiculously easy because they're already simplified. There is no distributive property, there is no combining like terms. Let's get x by itself on one side of the equal sign. You see, I have x's on both sides of this equal sign, so let's get rid of this x. How do I get rid of a 7x? By subtracting 7x. That'll get rid of it. 7x take away 7x is 0. And what you do to one side, do to the other side. So it's like you have $4, but you owe $7. You're still going to owe 3 of those dollars, but in this case we have x's, not dollars. We have minus 9 equals 12. So now we have x by on one side of the equal sign, and we need to get it by itself on that one side of the equal sign. So let's get rid of that minus 9 by doing plus 9, and what you do to one side, do to the other side. We will have negative 3x equaling, what is that, 21. So that really is saying negative 3 times x equals 21. We already know that the answer is 7, but let's show our work here. To get rid of the multiplication of negative 3, we divide by negative 3. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. Your final answer is x equals negative 7. Move on to number 8. I'm sorry, number 9. We're doing the odd ones here. Let's get that r by itself on one side. Subtract 5r. Subtract 5r. Rewrite, we have 5 plus, what is 3 take away 5? That's negative 2. So I could put plus negative 2, or I could just put minus 2 of those r's. So let me put the minus 2r. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the minus 19. Okay, now we have r on one side of the equal sign. Let's get this r by itself. Let's get rid of this positive 5 by subtracting 5. What you do to one side, do to the other, subtract 5. You have negative 2r, bring down the equal sign, and what is negative 19 minus 5? That's negative 24. So what this really says is negative 2 times r equals negative 24. Let's get rid of the multiplication by dividing by that same value, negative 2. Final answer will be r equals positive 12. And that's your answer to number 9. Let's jump to 11. There's 11 right there. Now finally we get to some questions that require simplification. As you can see on the left side, there is no distributed property and you can't combine 8 q's with the number 12, so you can't do that. But over here on the right side, we could distribute, and that's what we must do first. We must simplify the equation before trying to get the letter by itself on one side. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8. And yeah, we're talking about q's right there. Let's bring down the equal sign, bring down the 12, bring down the plus, and the 8q. So what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is an equation that's now simplified that has q's on both sides of the equal sign. We don't want the q's on both sides. We only want it on one side. So let's get rid of this 8q by doing the opposite, minus 8q. That'll cancel out. What I do to one side, I do to the other side, minus 8q. And right here, this also cancels out. Super weird, right? What is left? We have 12 equals 12. So what does that mean, that 12 equals 12? That means that it's true. 12 does equal 12. It's always true. So what this means is that the q's, they ended up canceling out. That means that the q's, the value of q, doesn't even matter because you're always going to get a true statement, 12 equals 12. And remember, what we're looking for when we solve an equation is the value that'll make it a true statement. And as you can see, the q's don't matter. It's always true, which means that q could be any number you want. So we're going to say that symbol, q equals that, which means all real numbers. That means you could plug in a 5 right there and a 5 right there and do the math, and it'll be a true statement. You could plug in pi right there, 3.14 that continues forever, 3.14 that continues forever. Do the math and it'll give you a true statement. As you could see, 12 always equals 12. That's why q equals all real numbers, any real number. Moving on, number 13. So those are special cases. And let me just review this. Again, when you end up with something that's always true, you say all real numbers or infinitely many solutions, whatever you want to say. If you end up with something that's impossible, like let's say the q's would have canceled and I end up with 12 equals 0, then you would say no solution because 12 does not equal 0. 12 will never equal 0. That's why you would say no solution. So when it's always true, say all real numbers. When it's never true, when it's impossible, you could say no solution. Let's simplify number 13 here. Distribute, that's negative 18v. Distribute, that's positive 6. Bring down the equal sign, distribute, that's negative 10v, distribute, that's negative 10. So what we have here is v's on both sides of the equal sign. We don't want v's on both sides, so let's get rid of the minus 10v by doing the opposite, plus 10v. What I do to one side, I do to the other side to maintain the balance of this equation. So what we have now is negative 8v plus 6 equals negative 10. Let's continue to get the v by itself on the left side. So let's subtract 6. Subtract 6, we will have negative 8v equaling negative 16. Final step is to get rid of the multiplication of negative 8 in front of the v by dividing by negative 8, dividing by negative 8. And there is your answer, v equals positive 2. Let's go to number 15. Here we go. Let's distribute on the left side. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, of course, with a t. Over here on the right side, 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times t is 5t. That's an ugly t. There you go. Sorry about that. So we have an equal sign in between the two. Now we've already simplified the left and the right side of this equation. Let's now get t by itself on the left side. So I'm going to get rid of the plus 5t by subtracting 5t. Subtracting 5t. Let me rewrite what I have. I have 24. I have minus 14t equals 10. So I need to get rid of this 24 right here. And by the way, you could have solved this differently. You could have moved the t to the right side instead of the left side. You could have gotten it by itself on the right side instead of the left side. Many roads to the same place. As long as you're getting the right answer, that's all that matters. So let's get rid of that 24 by subtracting 24. Subtracting 24. This will give us a new equation that reads negative 14t. That just comes down. The equal sign just comes down, right? And 10 take away 24, that's negative 14. As you can see, our final step is to get rid of the multiplication of negative 14 by dividing by negative 14. Final answer will be t equals positive 1. Negative 14 divided by negative 14 is positive 1. Let's jump to number 17. Distribute that 8. 8 times 2f is 16f. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. 7 times 3 is 21f. 7 times 2 is positive 14. Bring down the equal sign. Let's get these f's on one side of the equal sign. So let's get rid of this 21f by subtracting 21f. That'll cancel out. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Subtract 21f. So I have positive 16, take away 21. That's like saying I have $16, but I owe $21. I will still owe 5 of those dollars, but in this case, 5 of those f's. Let's bring down the minus 16, bring down that equal sign, bring down the 14. Just comes down over there, that positive 14. So now let's get rid of that minus 16 by adding 16. And what I do to one side, I must do to the other. What I have left is the negative 5f equaling, that's 30. 14 plus 16 is 30. So we have negative 5 times f equaling 30. What we need to do is divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, giving us a final answer, f equals negative 6. Number 19. Sorry, I'm going kind of fast. 6 times w, 6w. 6 times negative 1, negative 6. Bring down the equal sign. 3 times 3 is 9 with the w. 3 times 5 is 15. So we've simplified both sides of the equal sign. Now let's get the w's on one side, okay? So I want to get rid of that that 9w by subtracting 9w. What I do to one side, I do to the other. I will have negative 3w, take away 6, equaling 15. I need to now get this w by itself on the left side. So I need to get rid of the minus 6 and then get rid of the multiplication of negative 3. So let's get rid of that minus 6 by adding 6 to both sides. I will have negative 3w equaling 21. Final step would be to get rid of this multiplication of negative 3, right? Negative 3 times w equals 21. We're going to divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, giving us a final answer, w equals negative 7. That is an ugly 7, but you got it, right? Final question, number 21. Explaining all the odd ones. Whenever you have a fraction, you could get rid of the fractions by multiplying everything by that denominator. So let's multiply everything by the denominator 3, times 3, times 3, times 3, times 3, everything by 3. 3's cancel, I have 2v. 3 times 6 is 18, and we have a minus 18 because the minus sign is in front. Equals 18 minus, that cancels out, and we have 2v. So what we have here is a problem that's now simplified. It was already simplified, but at least we have a problem with no fractions. Let's continue to move the v's to the left side of the equal sign. So add 2v to both sides. This one cancels, but this one over here does not. You end up with 4v minus 18 equals 18. So let's continue to solve here. We're going to add 18, and we will get 4v equals 36. Whoa, something's weird happening there. 4v equals 36. That's 4 times v equals 36. So divide by 4, v equals 9. And that's it, guys. That's the entire worksheet explained, the odd ones. Okay.